Let me tell you a little tale. In the deserts of Africa, there once ruled a mighty king named Jelbu. Strong and powerful he was, yet his thoughts often wandered like sand on the wind. He had 2 sons, 2 princes. One drew his strength from the sun, vibrant and bold. The other drew his strength from the moon, wise and thoughtful. For them, the king built 2 great palaces, one of gleaming ivory marble, the other of deep ebony obsidian. Together, they were to rule over the wondrous menagerie the king had gathered. And then Jelbu accidentally erased the kingdom by deleting the save file. 2 palaces, 5 habitats, nearly 30 hours of work. All gone. Anyway, in grief, the king withdrew from his lands. Yet now the princes have returned, more splendid than before, bearing new wisdom from their mysterious absence. Hey there friends, guess what happened behind the scenes? Bollo Bollo is back and the Dueling Palaces are back, but the story that goes with this all is quite complicated. Let me tell you all about it as we watch me build. I had finished the Grand Safari somewhere at the end of March of this year. I had built the remaining habitats, the ostrich habitat, I had built some gazelle habitats, I've built a random habitat to the side, the 2 rhino habitats and the 2 elaborate, quite detailed dueling palaces. I was very pleased, happy with myself and how they had turned out. And all in all, it was like 30 hours of work spread over a month, all of it recorded. Then I was on a Discord call with some other creators and Plant Soup players, and I was showcasing the very beginning of Tierra Encantada. I was showing them the entrance. I built the entrance, they helped me pick the right colors for it all, and then I saved Tierra Encantada. Immediately I realized what I had done. I had saved over my Bollo Bollo save. I was filled with dread and I went and loaded the last save that I had of Bollo Bollo, the one that I hadn't saved over, and it set me back to, well, as I just said, 30 hours of work, a whole month of work, and a lot of effort all gone in the, in a few seconds. I tried a lot of things. I tried file recovery, I tried, to do everything. I tried to fix the file, I tried to reload anything. It just wasn't to be. I had absolutely removed the existence of the Dueling Palaces from the face of the earth. The one saving grace I had is that I had recorded me building them. So I knew that in theory I could rebuild not just the palaces but also the 5 lost habitats by watching the footage and rebuilding it painstakingly. I even promised to do a lot of this on stream, and in fact I streamed a lot of the rebuild for you guys to see, and I think I think some of you also saw the supercut that I released of most of those streams, and then 2 more streams followed after that. But here's the thing, the loss of these palaces especially, they aren't crazy builds. Let me get that out of the way from the get-go. They aren't complicated builds, they're just rectangular boxes with no interior and just a lot of detail added to the exterior of it. But just the loss of it all psychologically impacted me to the point that I just procrastinated on finishing these palaces for weeks and weeks and weeks. And, adding to that the fact that, in between removing that build and now I have a second child, a 4-month-old son who I'm now raising. It was a perfect storm of me just stopping the work on Bollo Bollo pretty much altogether, and I finished a whole other zoo in the meantime. But guys, the big news is that last Sunday I finally finished the Dueling Palaces, and in fact I upgraded them quite considerably. The build that you're watching me do now is in fact the recording of the old palaces. It is almost identical to the palaces that I have built now, but there have been some changes. I feel personally that the palaces have been improved, but I somehow felt like sorry for the recording that I had done of these original palaces, so I knew I had to keep them intact, the footage, and just show you the work that went into them. I didn't record the new rebuild of the palaces for a couple of reasons. Number one is because I had the window like shoved to the side of my monitor, and it was more like a rectangle than filling my screen, and that was just not looking good. Also, the editing would have been very annoying because I did a lot of clicking back and forth between this footage and Planet Zoo. Adding to that some live streams. I was not in the mood for that. I wanted to do the old footage. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the old footage together, and then at the very end I will reveal to you the Dueling Palaces as they are right now on my computer, safely backed up with the second save file and everything. Though I must say the horror of removing it again, it fills me with dread. Luckily it is uploaded privately on the workshop, so that if I do lose it, I can revert back to that save. And yeah, in fact, the whole ostrich habitat that you saw me build and the antelope habitat, the two previous videos of Bollo Bollo, are almost rendered, like not useless, but those builds have been replaced with nearly identical builds. So let's get into the meat, what is happening here. I knew that the palaces, the white palace, needed to be white plaster with mostly white detailing, but just hints of black. And you will see that and hints of gold as well. And you will see that the black palace is mostly black plaster with hints of white and silver. But there's also some gold touches here in the plaster as well. So the main, I could say, inspiration for this, if there's any, it's all fanciful. There's no real architectural design behind this. This is not a functional building. It's just me, placing a whole lot of stuff on top of each other. Again, as I said, I don't think this is extraordinarily exceptional in terms of architecture, but just, the fact that I spent a lot of time on it, and it is the most beautiful looking building in the zoo. These domes, for example, with the golden bell on top, really was cool, and the way it looks from all around the zoo, just really cool. So what was I saying? I don't remember. All right, the inspiration. Yeah, just saying the King Jelbu was a scatterbrain, as the legend says. If you would look for any modicum of inspiration, then I would say the Golestan Palace in Tehran, in Iran, is the biggest inspiration for these two, what do I call it? These towers with the balcony and the pillars there. That was inspired by the Golestan Palace. In general, I looked up some architecture of Northern Africa, but also more Arabian, Persian architecture. Not that much of that inspiration truly shows in this build, but just to get me in the mood. So you've seen me build a big section of it. Again, even while building this, I didn't record all of this. You see a whole section there with the pots and everything. I didn't record that, and the balconies and everything. So yeah, even parts of the original footage were lost, and I just had to sort of scroll back and forth through the footage, trying to get good angles of these builds to rebuild them. And I think that explains a lot of the deviations in the actual build, is that I just simply couldn't accurately look back at what I had made, and I just had to sort of guesstimate. And also I just wanted to make them bigger and even cooler, and I think I pulled that off. So yeah, we are at the point now that we are designing the side of the White Palace. In general, the whole modus operandi was using trim, was using the plaster from the Africa pack, and also Indian influences. You see me placing these benches here on sort of like a fancy terrace, using these rugs here. I changed my mind, removed this bench, placed this one in the middle, and there you go. I made this a bit bigger to place a fountain there. One of my favorite touches, honestly, was the 2 rhino statues there, and sort of that the white and black volcanic rocks meet there at the waterfall. I'm kind of annoyed in a way that the rhino statues are multicolor except for those golden panels there. I mean, like, why shouldn't I be able to recolor the whole thing? But again, if you listen to the story in the beginning, the 2 princes, they are of course family. They're not necessarily rivals or enemies. They're just, both trying to represent themselves. And I guess those rhinos as well share that golden touch of the desert and everything. So yeah, this build is Bollo Bollo in general is chaotic, is not realistic at all. It's a messy maze of strange ideas, but these palaces really do stand out as the more fanciful, almost like theme park, fairy tale buildings in there. And I think they are in many ways the crowning achievement of Bollo Bollo and the Grand Safari. And the Grand Safari itself is the favorite African exhibit that I've built in all of my time in Plan Zoo. It takes up a very large portion of Bollo Bollo now that it's finished, and I'm really happy with it. And yeah, what am I doing here? These slopes needed to be covered with whitish rocks, so I'm also using these stalactites, stalagmites in fact, placing them here, and you will soon see me starting to add plants to this. And the idea was that the White Palace had plant life that was more, how could I put it, like positive, like good, like with bright colors, with white, with gold, bright, and that the Black Palace you'll see later has more darker greens, more naturalistic, also more realistic builds. And with the front lawn, you could say, of the White Palace, it will have some pinks, it will have some yellows, as you can see here. That was well timed by me and not on purpose, but that was the general idea here. And then we cut to the Black Palace. As you see, I didn't record this whole bit, so you see me here filming it, like almost like, sorry guys, this is what I've built. And I knew that I wanted this big arch over the doorway, and the arch is kind of inspired by a lot of architecture from that region of the world. So I got lucky that the arch pretty much matched up here on its own, and yep, the arch will support a very big door, and above it you will eventually see a very cool dome that I really enjoyed building, because it's almost like the dome from what's called Agrabah Palace in Aladdin, that like very fantastical dome. And just to put things into perspective, the footage that I had to edit down for you to see this was like 10 hours of footage. This wasn't a crazy loss, really. This wasn't like I had deleted 10,000 hours of work or something. This was very achievable for me to rebuild in the span of a few weeks. And in fact, that's what I believed was going to happen when I started the rebuild streams. But in truth, life really got in the way, in a very good way, of course, because I became father for the second time. I also started focusing on my second sort of secret-ish channel that I'm not going to advertise much more here, because that was much more low effort, really. And yeah, just in general, I don't deal very well with setbacks, I have found. And this was a setback, and I just like sort of got over it. I started building Tierra Encantada, and you know, I really started to forget about Bollo Bollo in a way. And then I'm very happy that I just finally got down to building this. It wasn't that hard after all. I spent a lot of time whining about it in several Discord servers. Bless the people that were kind to me and supported me in rebuilding it, because you know, it wasn't that hard in the end. But yeah, I built Tierra Encantada. That's good news. And also the sort of the resurge of me finishing the palaces has also meant that I started building in Bollo Bollo again, just in general. I started trying to fix the roof of that one building that you've never seen. It's so bad, the roof. I don't know how to fix it. If anyone wants to fix a terrible roof, please contact me. I'll even pay you money. It's the worst roof. Anyway, I started building on the great ape area of Bollo Bollo. Just, the gorilla, bonobo, chimpanzee, they are getting a home. And talking about procrastinating, I procrastinated building for the apes of Africa for a very long time. In case you don't know, it is just a personal goal of mine to build for every single animal in Planet Zoo, and I'm very, very close to achieving that. But 3 animals from the base game that I've never ever even considered building for were the gorilla, chimpanzee, and bonobo. Number 1, I never really enjoyed seeing them in zoos for various reasons. I don't like building climbing stuff, and yeah, they're just like, I know they're obvious animals to include in zoos, but I just never really felt like it was the time. And now that I built this bonobo island, which I will show you very soon, and I immediately started to enjoy it immensely, not just building the island, but also the models, how they interact with the environment. And I'm right away completely switched on it, and now I really want to build again for all of the apes in other zoos. Talking about other zoos, in my, I think one of my previous streams, by the way, if you checked out any of my streams, thank you so much for choosing me to spend, choosing to spend some time with me. If you haven't, I guess you can rewatch. Some of it is tolerable, I guess. But yeah, after Bollo Bollo is finished, and that is becoming a very distinct reality. Bollo Bollo is a mad project. It's way too big. It's way too chaotic. But it is very close to the end. After the rhinos, all I really have left to do is some tiny scraps like the fennec fox, the honey badger, tiny scraps of animals, maybe some modded birds in there, but very big. The African lion still does not have a home. In fact, I started building it, and what I had in mind is so weird again, and so crazy and so big that I just couldn't get started on it. So I think I have to scale my ambitions down to finally build that lion habitat. And the African element, I know there's forest elephants in Bollo Bollo, but it wouldn't be a crazy Elbow project if I didn't also want to include the bush elephant. So the bush elephant is going to live at the very end of the main boulevard through Bollo Bollo and behind the lion plateau. The elephants will have a large lake that in fact is the same lake that the chimpanzee and bonobo islands are on. So I'm going to try and make it work that the elephants can come up rather close to the chimpanzee island without it looking like an absolute hazard to either animal. And when I've done those things, there's a surprise coming up actually, with a very talented builder who is looking to build in the zoo. And then we're just looking at, very small things like just finishing up the shadow trail with some monkeys that still need to go there. And then after that, Bollo Bollo truly is finished after a very long time of building this wild little thing. And then I feel like I'm going to move on to a new project, and it is going to be, hopefully, I say this now, don't shoot me if I change this, but a more modest, smaller scaled, condensed zoo with just a hint more realism, but especially just more focused on the guest experience. Bollo Bollo is, in my view, has an exceptional design for the animals, but the guests need to do so much backtracking and the viewing isn't always optimal, and I want to return to the roots of zoo building. I've done a lot of tours in the meantime here on the channel, and one thing that always stands out to me in what makes, you know, the big creators so great is they know how zoos work, and at every turn in their builds you see them putting those ideas into practice and really doing those little things that you see in real zoos that aren't natural or logical with how building in Planet Zoo works, because the game encourages you to just place barriers in a rectangle, throw some enrichment and some trees in there. If you really want to make a realistic habitat, you're going to have to spend hours on it. And just casual beginners don't have that time or patience or skill or you know, vocabulary in them. But that is the goal, to make a more grounded in reality zoo in the temperate biome, which just is the most nearest and dearest to what I'm used to in zoos here in Europe. And a smaller roster of animals, modded or otherwise. Again, I say this now, I might very well just go crazy again. Before we head to that zoo, there's two things we need to do. Number one, I finally need to show you, I've been teasing you with this for a very long time, but I need to show you the entirety of Bollo Bollo, including all the things that I built before I started recording videos. Remember those videos in the beginning with the weird music and the terrible mic? I had already built a lot in this zoo before that, and I feel like if you followed along, you deserve to see, you know, the prehistory of Bollo Bollo. And in fact, there's some stuff in there that I feel, you know, needs to be on YouTube as well. Then I also need to showcase you the other unfinished large zoo of mine that is with Oceania, Asian and South American animals that I never finished for frame rate reasons. In fact, I might just do like a second side series where I finish that, but I need to tour it for you. Again, also that zoo, no planning, just chaos, a lot of backtracking. The guest experience there is abysmal, but you will be seeing all those things in the coming months as I try to get sort of a rhythm going again. It's going to be less than before, the content, that's true. I had like a few videos a week in the past. It's just not feasible at the moment with raising the new family, especially since in September I have to start working again. I'm only working like a half time, like a 50% of a full teacher's job. Just I'm that kind of person. I need the time at home to get my stuff together, to think about the next lessons, but also to take care of my family, because I have found in becoming a father that I am a family man through and through. I didn't know this about myself, but it is in truth. Actually, I'm yapping, but what I'm doing right now, I need to talk about this. This is a idea that came to me very late in building is, but if you have heard of the rock formation, the Giant Causeway, it is this natural formation of these very geometrical rocks in Ireland, and it truly looks like this, just like smaller ones, taller ones, shorter ones, and then at the coastline you can just walk over this, and it was such a striking idea. I don't remember how I came up with it. Was it someone else's idea? Did I read about it? Did someone suggest it to me? I don't know, but I just started spamming it all over and decorating the rhino interior of the black rhino habitat with it. I was going to use that black volcanic rock all over, but this just felt more intricate, more of an interesting, striking design. And that is what we went with. Many times when I showed these two rhino builds, a lot of people said that the black and white rocks stood out in a bad way. And I'm going to say here and now that is all purpose. I know, I even myself think, especially the white rocks in the white rhino habitat, they stand out in a weird way. They don't really fit the more orangey desert sands, but the idea is still just a high contrast, fantastical build, and that is what it eventually turned out to be. Also, yeah, I think they're also already in here. I'm not sure. 2 animals were added to accompany the black and white rhino, and that is the greater kudu, a beautiful, striking animal with beautiful spiral horns, and the giant eland, one of the largest of its kind. And they live respectively with the white and black rhinoceros. And let's talk a little bit about the inhabitants that have moved into Bollo Bollo. The white rhinoceros is the largest species of rhino. It is also the most social of all rhino species. It includes, in fact, 2 subspecies that have very different conservation statuses. The southern white rhinoceros has an approximated 17,000 individuals, and they live in the south, obviously, of Africa. There is a population of northern white rhinoceroses which is pretty much extinct or on the brink of extinction. The last known male died in 2018, leaving behind only a very small number of females in captivity. Both subspecies do still face significant threats. The other species of rhinoceros that now lives in Bollo Bollo is the black rhinoceros. They are also not doing well. They are critically endangered. It is estimated only 3,000 mature individuals remain in the wild. 3 subspecies have been declared extinct. It is caused by habitat reduction, but also by poaching. All rhinos obviously have been hunted historically, even up to this day, for their horns, which is just such a shame. The black rhinoceros has a reputation of being more solitary and definitely more aggressive. Usually, like not in a good mood, and in very often in zoos you will see them solitary, as opposed to in Planet Zoo, when people will usually place 2 of them in one habitat, and you will pretty much never see them paired up in a zoo, which is not usually the case with white rhinos, which I've often seen in pretty large groups. If you've come to this point in the video and you've managed to withstand all of the talking and rambling up by Yelbu, perhaps it's a good time to maybe like the video. And if you like this sort of content, and if you want to see more of a Bollo Bollo and future zoos, why don't you try and subscribe? If you haven't yet, it would be so cool if you do. The channel is crawling a bit out of a hole by the lessened activity, but I promise that a weekly video is still very much the goal, and it might, in the future increase. Also, if you haven't followed along, I have started the Yelbu backlog streams, which is me streaming games from my extensive gaming library that I really need to, at the very least play and perhaps also finished. And we have gotten quite far at this point into Halo 2, and at the point of release there will be another stream next week. You will see that appear on the channel, and then Planet Zoo streams will intermittently return as well, and I will usually have those scheduled on my channel, so you can see beforehand if you wanna join and check out what's up. So I've been enjoying streams both for Planet Zoo and otherwise. Got over the stage fright a little bit, even though it's for a small audience, right? I still just generally enjoy the vibe, the music that I'm playing a fun video game, and if there's someone in chat, that's fine. If there's nobody, I'll pretend like there is. And what you are looking at now is in fact the new and improved palaces. You just saw me build the previous versions, and a keen eye will absolutely notice that these palaces are just a bit bigger, just a bit grander than the previous iterations. The rhino habitats themselves are close to the original, but there's still some small changes there. But both the black and the white palace here have received some extra flair, some extra weight, while at the same time I recommend not checking the interior. I did not build any interior for this. Let's do a little tour here. The reason I still want to take you on a tour, and I commend you if you're still watching, I'm doing this almost more for me than for you, but I didn't just remove the palaces and the rhinos, I also removed more habitats and I added some new stuff. So if you have survived through this video, congratulations, I'm going to show you some more stuff. So the walking tour is what we're going to feature here, starting off with the amazing look here from the cheetahs. Finally, the original vision is here, that when you are at the cheetahs you can see everything beyond it, and it's become such a dense, crazy environment. And look at the cheetah chasing the jeeps there. Such an amazing vibe here. I'm so happy with how this turned out. So all of this was luckily saved. Our weird little restaurant was luckily saved, I guess. It's a vibe, I guess, this building, but let's not dwell on this place too much. This was saved. I didn't delete any of this for the Hirola and the Hartebeest. But coming up is something that I did remove, and that is you get the first view here of the with the warthogs here. Those I didn't remove, but the ostrich, black wildebeest and gemsbok habitat, I had removed that and I rebuilt all of that on stream. It's almost the same with some minor differences in height and elevation, and also for frame rate reasons it's kind of empty right now. Trust me, there's animals in here, but for frame rate reasons I have dramatically lessened the amount of animals in here. Here we get another gorgeous view at the palaces, but before we head there, we're going to head into something that has not been shown on my YouTube channel and was also something I built on stream. I know that explore mode kind of freaks out when I try to enter this tunnel, but this time it didn't. What you have here is an actual black-backed jackal habitat. Here you see a bunch of them, and we get this awesome tunnel through their habitat, and they can actually visit both sides of this habitat should they desire, by a secret hidden tunnel underneath. As you can see, this guy just ran in there, and we might see him appear over here, that guy, right? So you can just see them running into and out of this habitat. And this is a very simple habitat in and of itself, but just the atmosphere here with the cars coming past, very Jurassic Park if I'm honest. And then these cool glass viewing experiences are also like these windows here, if you're lucky, and we got lucky. You get to see the jackal here having fun and playing around, although the animation's sort of glitching here. And just a very cool habitat, in my honest opinion. Also here you get another private viewing. But we're going to head up these stairs to get our true look at the palaces here. And I have to say, it is such an amazing vibe to approach them, and the sharp contrast between the black and the white and the green, I must say. It looks so good. And also the view you get from the palaces at the whole safari is absolutely worth the wait. It's perhaps you could say it's a bit much with all those pillars, but as I've been saying, it's absolutely meant to be a fairy tale theme park, fantastical type of environment, and not a real zoo. So here you get the Black Palace in all its splendor. I always envisioned it as a bit more, what's the word, like regimented, like more strict palace, if that makes sense. And you get your view here of the black rhinos. I do house two of them, as I just said, it's not realistic, but anyway, they coexist here. And you get this grand sweeping overlook of the whole safari. You can look all the way at every habitat here. You can see the zebras and the giraffes there at the back. If you're lucky, you can catch a glimpse of the cheetahs over here. You see the red hartebeest, you see the Hirolas, the ostriches, the black wildebeest, they're all there. The giant eland down there, the rhinos. But it gets crazier because you can also see at this site the impala and the eland, the common eland in this case. I guess if you're really lucky, you can see the baboons over there, the hamadryas baboons. You can see the hippopotamus palace. Wow, that I struggled with that name over there, which looking back at it really pales in comparison with this. I might have to go in there and add some stuff to it. We walk through this gate and we look at the more like fairy tale, fairy-esque white palace, and you get the white rhinoceros here with the kudu. I love this mod so much. Such a beautiful animal, and also a beautiful mod by a Great Cakes mod. In fact, I believe both of these, this and this animal, is a Great Cakes mod. They are amazing. A final look here at the White Palace, which is bigger and better. And then we have just one final thing to check out. I guess Explore mode is being a bit of a cranky fellow here, but you get a second look here, if you're lucky, at the Jebsbok ostrich. Then you get one of my favorites, obviously the hyena arena. I really like this habitat and how it came together and how they actually used the habitat in the way I hoped. They look so menacing up there, the way they look to the side walking the whole time. The animation just perfectly matches up. It looks like they are watching the keepers, and pooping of course, but like watching everyone who passes by, waiting for food or a snack or anything. And that's just such a cool vibe, and I'm really happy that it turned out like this. And then you get this view here at the eland and impala. This was rebuilt on stream. And one thing that I didn't really show off on YouTube yet is this habitat. It's a walking tour exclusive for the Jernuk, which is a really unique antelope, as you can see here. The long-necked weirdos. They live in this sort of sunken, lush, overgrown habitat. Can't really say a lot of cool stuff about it. But that concludes the Grand Safari pretty much. You can also do it by car, get different views of the environment. But I have to say, all in all, it's just a big flat plain with some moats in between. But I feel like this area absolutely was worth the time I spent building. I'm so happy and so proud with how it all turned out. And if you look at it, it is a huge section of this huge zoo is now dedicated to this. And yeah, as I've been telling you, we still have some final things to do. Slight teaser here. And after that, we'll just fill up the rest of the map with some plants, and then Bollo Bollo is done, and I can finally show all of it to you. Until then, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon for the exciting final chapters of Bollo Bollo. See ya.